right, welcome to Primos for Life, the wrestling podcast made for the fans, by the fans. Como siempre, I am Eddie, El Niño Baque, and we got Ariel, the Ecuadorian Dream Bisueta, and we are your self-proclaimed, undisputed co-host tag team champions of the world. And in tonight's episode, we invite best friend of the podcast, Mr. Mark Gould. Mark is a childhood friend of mine who reached out to us via our social media page and wanted to come onto the show and share his thoughts on the Triple H era. So, como siempre, sit back, grab a snack, and let's get it on. ¿Cómo estás, primo?
What's going on, man? ¿Cómo estás? Todo bien. Todo bien. How about you?
Good, man. Good. Chilling, excited, to get together for another episode of Primos for Life, Want to take this opportunity to really give a shout out to all our listeners. It's a beautiful thing to see that as soon as we upload a new episode, whether it be through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever we are, just knowing that there is solid people out there that are just really looking out for us, get that notification and start listening. So muchas gracias, everybody. That's exciting,
Yes, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Thank y'all.
Muchas gracias. But what I'm really excited about in today's episode, after our Lucha Hot Tag topic about hardcore wrestling, that, stirred up a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, a lot of feelings, really. So much so that when we were jumping into that episode, it opened up a memory that I've thought I locked up, but I revealed to all our listeners and to you, basically, what happened when I was younger. And I had a childhood best friend, and we, got into a situation where we had a small bat that accidentally hit him in the head, causing stitches and this whole thing, right?
Accidentally?
Rough, right?
Accidentally?
Yeah, it was accidental.
Yeah. Was it a hardcore match?
Yeah. Hardcore match, supposedly. So,
sloppy work, sloppy work.
That,
that's on you. Sloppy work, man. You missed getting the hand.
Yeah, I was still green. And ultimately, after that episode went out, this friend who I have not spoken to since then, or I mean, maybe a little bit after that, but since that time period in my life, reached out via our Instagram page, at Primos for Life, and was like, hey, bro, I heard the episode. Oh, man, I can't believe you even remember that. I would love to get on the show because I'm a fan as well. And, I love what you guys are doing and would love to talk about some, wrestling stuff. But we could definitely jump into that story, too, if you want. And I'm just like, oh, man. So I was just like, what?
Like, do I really want to do this to myself?
Yeah,
man, that's great.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'm bringing on my childhood best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, I give you fan of the pod, Mr. Mark Gould. There he is.
Yo, what's up, gentlemen?
What's going on? How are you?
What is up, Mark? How are you today, sir?
I'm so great. So excited to talk to you guys. How are you doing?
Good,
we're
man.
Good. Yeah, we're good, man. Excited to have you on, man. Excited to have someone from Eddie's life on, a good friend of that, and that's fantastic. Yeah. And quite the story from what I heard on the last episode that we had that we can definitely get into a little bit later, because I know there's a few things we want to touch on before that. But welcome on in.
We're gonna get into it.
Nice to meet you, man.
Pleasure.
Welcome. Thanks for being a listener. Thanks for joining us, giving us a little bit of your time today. We really, truly are appreciative to everyone who does give us, just even the smallest amount of time. So thank you very much, man. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh yeah, big fan of the show. Like me and Eddie, day one-ish, for real.
Oh,
nice.
Man, and it's funny too, because I was telling Ariel, I was like, man, the fact that conversation just reopened that memory of, what happened when we were kids. And then you following the show genuinely, you're a fan of the show genuinely. And then we just get reconnected and we're just like, yeah, I would love to get on the show. We love what you guys are doing and all this. And yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. And I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this.
It's all good though. It's all good.
It was a shoot for real.
It was a shoot. Yeah, it was a shoot.
You know what?
That was a shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and the crazy thing about it is like, in sitting the last 24 hours thinking about it, I was like, I was trying to recover like a little bit more of it. I think like we were playing wrestling, it happened, like we freaked out, we didn't know. Like I remember you ran to the bathroom, we were trying,
Yeah.
the
Yo, we can
bleeding
start.
wouldn't
We can start
stop.
right there.
Yeah,
I
I
we
can give
mean,
my
did.
side of the story.
I
Yes,
mean,
go ahead, please, please.
we're here. We're here. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go. We're here. Let's
Let's
Yeah.
go. Go ahead. Floor is
So,
yours, man.
so we're, I think, 10 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in my bedroom, as mentioned, have this like wooden bat, not a regulation size, but it's a real bat. And, we're just play wrestling. Eddie's swinging. He's channeling Sting or whoever it was at the time. And I remember being on the floor, getting the smackdown laid on me. And I think he's stopped swinging. So I go to get up, but it turns out he has not stopped swinging and just smacked right in my forehead, makes contact. And it stung for a couple of seconds. I was fine though. I was fine.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I still remember like the look on his face. He's like, "You're bleeding." And I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." And no, I was bleeding and it didn't stop bleeding.
Man.
And so, yeah, I go to the doctor. I got to get me some stitches. And, like I told Eddie, I look back, not once did I, blame him or have hard feelings. Like
Right.
I look back fondly. I got like maybe a little wrinkle on my forehead. I wouldn't even call it a scar. It's
Right.
all good.
Not how I remember it, man. Because I remember the bleeding wouldn't stop. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, yo,
It was a lot of the
what?
time.
Because I remember this part. You ran to the bathroom and like we kept trying to wash it off and like just cover it and stuff, and it just kept coming
Yeah.
out. And I was like, oh no. And then I remember what was it, your nanny, right? That she was in the other room and like we were afraid to tell her. And
Yep.
like she just went off. She's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? You can't stop bleeding. Like it's so deep. We have
It's
to
so
go to
deep.
we have to go
no.
get
Oh,
stitches. And
no.
I turned pale. Like I was very like so upset that, I hurt my friend. And I was like, no, like it was
Best
we were
friend.
just, yeah, best friend. There
Best
you
friend at the time. No, it was an initial shock for sure. But like,
It was, yeah.
it's been decades.
Yeah.
Like it's all good. Like I carry you with me for life.
There
For
you
life.
go. See that?
For
See
real.
that? That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Primos
That's
for
fantastic.
life.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. That's
Oh,
I'll take
that's beautiful, Mark. That's
reach out,
definitely
touch it
gonna
with the heart.
make
Touch it with the heart.
yeah, for sure. That's gonna definitely make a reel. We're gonna make a reel out of that one for sure.
But it's a fun story, man. The time my best friend hit me with a baseball bat.
Stitch got your
Man,
stitches.
to this day, man. I know we spoke about it in backstage, in the in the behind the scenes rather. And to this day, I told you, and let's let our listeners and Ariel know. Like to this day, I still think your parents hate me, dude. I
They're
feel
gonna be
like
so excited to see this.
I can't imagine. Yeah, the
Let me tell you.
juxtaposition your parents are in with this. Like, dude,
Eddie was the baby face of all baby faces. Like everybody loved him. He had like everybody was his best friends. My parents loved him to death. My babysitter loved him. Like he was the John Cena of our elementary school for sure.
No,
I gotta give you props, man. He was the guy.
That's funny.
That was the face of the company.
He was a company man through and through.
That's it.
Man, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you for
awesome.
The shoot, the compliments. I give you.
Yeah, man. I love you.
Mad
I'm
love,
glad
brother.
to be here.
Yeah,
let's get it on.
Let's go. All right, now back to wrestling, right? Because genuinely, as we mentioned, you are a fan of the podcast, and you have been listening, and you have been, keeping up with the social media, and we continue growing, and you've been very supportive of that. We appreciate that for sure. And you even reached out saying that there was a topic that you wanted to touch on. So by all means, let the world know, what does Mark Gould want to talk about in the world of wrestling today?
So every time you guys do a PLE wrap up, eventually you kind of give a shout out to Triple H and the booking that's been happening recently. And Triple H was always my guy. He was always my favorite wrestler as a kid.
Yeah.
And so I've been back into WWE relatively recently, maybe like 3 or so years ago. And so I kind of got to see the tail end of one era and the entrance of the new era. And so I thought today we could just kind of celebrate not necessarily a specific point in time, just like the last few years. If you want to be really specific, that's cool too. But just kind of celebrating the progress, the new era that we have of WWE.
Yeah, for sure. And you
Great.
know what? And
Love it.
for our listeners, to kind of give a little background information, because you said you just got back into wrestling a few years ago. So like we're talking like 2, 3 years. But in reality, it was in July of 2022 during Vince McMahon's first legal issues that Triple H was officially named the head of creative post Vince McMahon's retirement, right? Like in
Right.
July 22nd of 2022. But ultimately though, he couldn't stay away, so he kept going back in and out. So that was like what you mentioned, the tail end of that portion of his run, because even though on paper it said, oh yeah, Triple H is the one that has the final say, in reality, when people when a finish didn't turn out the way that it did, or PLE ended on a sour note and we were all left disappointed, then it was like, oh,
Yeah, this must be Vince's doing. He's still pulling the strings.
right, exactly. So, but to further touch on that, situation, it wasn't actually, because this was part of my notes as well, but it wasn't until really on January 26th of 2024 that he officially resigned because of that allegation that happened. He was kind of forced to step down, and Triple H finally 1,000% has full control. So now, Mark, my question to you is, being that you knew that his start time was probably a year earlier than, or slightly less than a year earlier than the Netflix premiere, right? The Netflix deal, right? Because a lot of people attribute the Triple H era to start really on Netflix, like the day one Netflix going forward. But real wrestling fans know that he had that position way earlier than that. You know what I'm saying? So where do you think we should start? Do we start in January 26th of 2024 when Vince is officially out of the picture and it's all Triple H? Or do you want to start from like Netflix, 2025 going forward?
I don't even have like a timeline or a historical branch. I just have like some things I wanted to shout out, some highs, some could be, improved. But I mean, you guys can absolutely take us through the history. In my mind, I think of it as like still at the tail end of when Vince is like kind of in and out. Because for me, I've been active for maybe like 3+ years now. So I have a lot more knowledge of that. But a lot of things I do want to talk about are within the last year and a half or so. So by all
Nice.
means, we can keep it present.
Okay, cool. We'll keep it present. All right. So, Mark, let me ask you a question, right? Being that, you jumped back into wrestling the last few years and you were at the tail end of when Vince was, in and out, so to speak, around that time, at least for me, and maybe Ariel could, speak to this as well, because I was so frustrated with how Vince was handling the product at that point in time. I was all in on the, no pun intended, on the AEW, train, and was excited for that because it did offer a new product, a new perspective, a new way of, or maybe a better way at the time of doing things compared to what Vince was doing at that time. So did you at any point branch out into and was curious about them, or were we just WWE through and through until now where we are?
I was curious, but I think the problem is that there's just so much wrestling. Like I got back into WWE and I really liked NXT. And then you had Raw, you have SmackDown, you got the PLEs. And so I just didn't have the time for anything else. I've been keeping tabs of what's going on in AEW. So I'm not saying it's bad. It's great to have that. But I was seeing what was going on with AEW, but I was willing to play the long game and just kind of trust. There's definitely some parts like Cody losing to Roman that first night and then kind of like getting beaten up by Brock after WrestleMania. I was like, all right, this is going to be a long year. But I was willing to stay positive and just kind of see where it goes. And ultimately, we did get there. So I have trust in the product. But yeah, man, if I had more time, I'd be checking out everything for sure.
Yeah. And it's tough to keep up with all of it. I mean, half the time I gotta like just squeeze it all in like a little time frame. And then, like for example, I was catching up on AEW just a few hours ago, and I got a lot of good sweet spots, but then a lot of things that make me realize, well, again, there's a reason why WWE truly is the superior product. I mean, there's no, so much, it's almost like too much freedom is too much. And therefore, instead of in your mind, it sounds like a good idea, but when you're actually live in front of a crowd and on television and being streamed, it's like, oh no, like that didn't come off as you thought it was gonna on your head. You know what I mean? So, and that's something that I saw in the MJF Hurt Syndicate like promo that they did that I was excited for. I wanted to more from it, but it just didn't deliver the way that I want. But but hey, but back to Triple H now. Ariel, what do you think of Triple H so far? Do you want to refer back to him in his NXT Gold, Black and Gold
Well, I
days? Like, what do
mean,
you think?
to talk about the Triple H era, you kind of have to go back. So we have to go back to Black and Gold. Those takeovers, Brooklyn takeovers. I mean, works of art on the PLE form. And I think that's obviously where, you saw like, okay, this is, if given the chance to pick up the ball and run with it, he can do a hell of a job. So now fast forward to where we currently are, because we said we want to kind of stay within the past 3 years. Cody losing at Mania, I think, was also a huge part of the start of this now, because now Cody's story was also kind of Hunter's story, because they're both in that time frame. And this is now Hunter's like, okay, I'm hitching myself to you. It's me and you, kid. Because Roman, fantastic, amazing. But Roman's still a Vince guy. I remember when they were pushing Roman years ago, and I remember there was a piece on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver about Roman Reigns, and they were like, how quick people turn, and they're like, WWE's trying to push this guy as a face, and he's not getting over. People are booing him out of the room. So that was still, like a Vince guy. So I think this time frame is, I'm going to go from that, like kind of Cody Rhodes' first loss as well. I think that's kind of like the sweet spot there, because that's, I think, kind of where both these stories are kind of become one. And of course they'll separate at some point, but I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. That's actually a good, I never even thought of it like that. You're right. Because, had Vince been in the picture at that time, it may have not worked out that same way. Right. It could have been something completely different where we all would have been, upset. It kind of brings me back to Roman and Brock, I believe, wasn't it in New Orleans, where people didn't really care about the match? I mean, when I was there, I remember the crowd, being in the crowd, I remember that people were just throwing like a beach volleyball, like a inflatable balloon, like all over the arena, because nobody was paying attention to the match. You know what I mean? And I feel like that doesn't happen under Triple H's watch now, So, yeah, I mean, but Mark, what do you think? I mean, where do you think, as creative controller of basically that's happening going forward into like WrestleMania, do you think we get the fans get what they want? Do you think we're going to get disappointed, but in a good way because it's unexpected? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference that I've noticed is things are very unpredictable. Like when I first started getting into it, it took me like a couple of weeks and I was like, okay, I think I know what's happening. I think I know who's going to win every match. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes being predictable makes sense. But right now, like WrestleMania coming up, I have no clue. Literally a single match, like not a single match seems cut and dry. It could go either way. And it's exciting. Like I think it's really exciting. There's definitely fans that are going to be upset because they want it their way.
Of course.
And then there's going to be other fans that are, just along for the ride. And I try to be one of those guys. Like I was not expecting Jey Uso to win the Rumble, not for a second.
No, not at all.
Okay, like let's do it. Let's strap in. Let's see where it goes. And I haven't really expected anything so far in 2025, and I think it's great. I really, really am excited because I have no clue what's happening.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that, because it's almost like you have to reprogram yourself under the new regime, because you're so used to it being a certain way, right? Because now that you look at the card, you're gonna be like, oh well, this person's gonna win. Oh well, this person's gonna lose, and well, whatever. This is just for WrestleMania season, because come Monday Night Raw, they're not even gonna be seen. But no, it's like the long term storytelling aspect of it. has just been fantastic. I mean, even this week's, and obviously we're going to touch on those episodes, of Raw and SmackDown later in the next episode, but man, everything that just went on this past week, you're right. It's just like, everything connects. Everything is like on purpose. Everything has a reason. And it's such a beautiful, it's like fun and exciting because you're like, oh man, what's going to happen? But it's almost like, because we are in that generation, in that time frame of like instant gratification where it's like, but I want to know now. I want to what's going to happen now? Like when is this going to happen? When is this finally going to pop off? And it is exciting. But for some of the wrestling purists, out there, some of them, I mean, they're not going to be happy about certain things. I mean, even as something that's like, it came out that I just saw this morning, both Royal Rumble winners are not main eventing either night, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that wild to think?
Well, no, because you're promised a title shot. You're not promised the main event. You're promised a title shot.
Right, but traditionally, the title is the final match of the night.
You have 2 titles, and they just started going to a 2-night WrestleMania, and you have 2 titles.
Yeah.
So that's okay with that, absolutely. But the one thing I do want to go back to is what you said. Is I think the feather hunter's cap here is the storytelling, because that's when we talked about it in the episode that we just did in terms of the hardcore. Does it have its place now? Where I'm a big fan of the storytelling. That's what I want. Don't give me the gotcha spot. I want the storytelling. I want to see this play out. I want to see that there's a callback to something that you wouldn't even have thought of. A good one for me semi-recently is the Damian Priest, Finn Balor. When Balor waited a year to turn on Priest. And they're like, oh yeah, he did give him that look after he lost the championship match a year ago. And then they cut back to it and I was like, genius. The fantastic, great, OTC of podcasting, Sam Roberts always says everything counts. Everything counts. You have to pay attention to all the little things because there are callbacks. There's always a callback. Hunter has been awesome about doing that. I think that's probably his, outside of the fact that it appears that now, I don't want to say it appears, but I kind of feel like there's a little more freedom backstage for the superstars back there, maybe a little more kind of creative shots that they can take, stuff like that, because from everything that we've heard, Vince was, ran it a certain way and it was Vince's way and that was it. So I think the storytelling aspect of what Hunter's doing has just been absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you guys a question, and Mark, you go first on this one. Especially me having a corporate background, I'm like, you always think about your one-on-one meetings or your annual reviews and stuff like that. And, there's always that question of like, well, is there room for improvement? Is there something that you could be doing better for the company going into the new year? And since WrestleMania season's in the air, and after that, basically the wrestling calendar starts over, what do you think at this point Triple H, could be doing better going into the new year? Or is he in exceeds? Like, is he going above and beyond and there is no improvement? He just got to keep going. Like, what do you think?
I do got to call out. I got my Bailey Ding Dong shirt.
Okay.
Nice. I am a huge fan of the women's division. One of the first PLEs that I went to rewatch was the Royal Rumble where Becky Lynch won. And she just kind of forced herself into the Rumble and won it because she had lost to Asuka earlier that night. And I just remember thinking, yeah, Becky Lynch is the man. She's amazing. And then I caught up on Bailey and all those NXT takeovers, and I was just 1,000,000% into it. However, I think with the women's division right now, if you're not at the top of the card, a lot of these people are kind of forgotten about. Like the mid-card titles, I think is fantastic that they exist, but they could be doing a lot more. The tag teams got unified. They're kind of just hot potatoing them a bit. So we have some of the most talented, I think is going to be the triple threat with Bianca, Rhea, Io, 3 of the greatest to ever do it.
Right.
But then you look at the rest of the roster and there's so much talent, and I feel like they're just not getting the same treatment that the men are getting. So I don't know if you guys agree. You guys
I totally I agree with that. They're not. I think it's a rough spot because you have so much show, and you have to devote a certain amount of time. You want to devote a certain amount of time to the women's division because they're amazing athletes, fantastic superstars, great storytellers. I mean, you could, when they did that, the full women PLEs, those are fantastic watches. Those are great watches. Like these women, they're fantastic. It's a tight spot with timing and everything. And so, yeah, I think he's got kind of a dicey, kind of edged sword, like right there, because you have to give them enough time, but also, unfortunately, you get a lot of the guy, a lot of people who get pig-headed and there's like, I just want to see the guys and no interest in the women. They'll play some wrestling, stuff like that. So he's got to kind of toe that line, but I agree with you. Yeah, he's got fantastic talent, and definitely love to see more of it happen. The mid-card titles are great. I think you can definitely start pushing it. I agree with you. I don't like the unification of the tag belts. Give these women a chance to work. Another episode on another match on the card is not going to hurt anybody if it's a good one, if done properly, and you have the women to do it. So,
yeah. No, just to touch on that, I agree too. The women's roster alone on all brands, on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, they all bring something special to the table. So for Triple H to try to figure out a way to just give them a little bit more exposure, a little bit more time. The one thing that I did notice that, just to kind of touch on like how he could do this better, it's like, I don't know if you noticed, but Charlotte has been fighting like, I wouldn't say mid card, but like just people that don't show up as often. And it got me wondering, I'm like, why is like Charlotte, it's someone who's like you said, top dog, top, tier, fighting like a Mishin or like a BFAB, right? And it just makes you think, okay, but like, where's their story? Where's their substance? How could we build them up to be better? Yeah, they got a match with Charlotte, but we all know because Charlotte is the heavier name, Charlotte's going to end up winning.
right.
So it's like, what's the point of trying to bring, kind of lift them up if you're going to bring them down by, somebody else's big name, you know what I mean? So, I could agree with that 100%. How he does it is beyond me. Maybe the tag idea is the best way to do it because now you have 4 belts, right? Instead of having one tag team go to all 3 brands, right? Because that's what they do. I think Liv and Raquel are the tag women's champions now. So sometimes I'm sure they'll go to NXT and challenge some of the girls there because there's a bunch of female tag teams there. Or, now that Chelsea Green got that Secret Service bootlegging that Men in Black thing going on, they could maybe they could form a tag team. I don't know. It is a little tricky, but I guess that would be, I would agree with that. That is the place for more improvement. Yeah, no. So the women are doing a fantastic job. Now, Mark, let me ask you a question, right? Now, in our behind the scenes conversations, you were talking a lot about Triple H and, all the good that he's been doing and all the changes that you've seen. But you mentioned something interesting about face and heel dynamic. I wanted you to kind of expand on that for our listeners. Like, what have you seen? What have you observed under his watch that you feel like it's better or different?
Yeah, oh, it's definitely better for sure. I think when we were growing up, and even just a few years ago, a heel was somebody who called you a jerk, called your town a jerk, called your sports team a jerk, right? Like they just, like, you suck, your team sucks. Like that was kind of it. And now the heels are just so authentic and complicated and like make really good points sometimes, right? Like Drew McIntyre, KO, like they've been really interesting guys. Even somebody like Gunter, who does sometimes say, you suck, your city sucks. He does it because he has so much pride about the sport of wrestling. It's not just because he's a jerk. So, like, I truly think the babyface heel dynamic has evolved so much, and even the line between them, like our main event of night 1, right? You got Roman, Seth, and Punk, who are technically all baby faces, but they're all like kind of, heelish too. So really interested to hear what you guys think, because I think the line between babyface and heel is as thin as it's ever been, and I think the authenticity is like improved a lot.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. Ariel, what are your thoughts first, and then I'll jump in for that one.
I mean, and I agree that I don't even feel like there's a line anymore because that good guy, bad guy thing is just out the window because now everyone has their moments. I mean, look, as recently as Cena. and him just turning on everybody and just being like, and once again, to your point, Mark, they're not wrong. Cena wasn't wrong. I'm in an abusive relationship. You guys are assholes. You've done this to me. I came out every time to put my ass on the line, sweat, possibly injure myself for you guys, and I'm getting you sucked. So I think that's great. So that's genius. It's great. That line is no longer even existing. I think it's about kind of now more so it's where you are in the story arc. Like, is this your time to go for a belt? And, the current person is quote unquote heel. So now we got to kind of sway your face a little bit and kind of stuff like that. So it's more so on a case by case basis, I think, with the heel where, back in the 80s, especially because I can attest to this being quite older, you had your set guys. Hogan was good. King Kong Bundy was bad all the time. Like, and as you start to get old, they start to evolve and you blur that line. So I think that the Hunter's done a great job also of being able to pull moments as well, because Cody, the ultimate face, the ultimate guy, some of the stuff he did in the Kevin Owens match as of recently, you see he has those moments where it's like, okay, listen, I understand I'm the face and I'm the guy, but you're not gonna sun me. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, this just, so I think Hunter's done a great job in terms of, well, I think in time as evolving in societies we have and everything, people have learned it's not just so black and white. And so along with that, I think Hunter's done a great job of illustrating that and bringing that to the forefront in terms of like, hey, listen, we're not going to have your classic good and guy, good and bad guy. Everyone's going to have their fans. And it's going to go any number of ways.
Yeah. No, I could totally agree with that. Actually, as you were speaking, what it made me think of was, the fact that Triple H listens. You know what I mean? It's funny because on interviews, he would say, no, I don't know what's going on over there or whatever. Even if he's watching or not watching, people will bring it up to him, behind the scenes, and they'll let him know. And then he'll be like, okay, well, if this is what, the internet's saying or this or that, then maybe we could slightly pivot. Maybe we could make it a little bit more real. Maybe we could add this to like kind of season it. So I could agree that because Triple H is more open than Vince, that adding a little bit more flair or a little bit more flavor to certain segments, certain matches, certain storytelling aspects will, ultimately is what we got now, where every story is interesting at this point. I don't think there's one story in WWE that if you mention one little bit about it, you have no idea what's going on. You know what's going on with Jade and Naomi. You know what's going on with Bianca, Rhea, and Io Sky. You know what's going on with Roman. You know what's going on with Street Profits. You know what's going on. What I will also add on to is that the fact that there's so much more psychological and relatable things in these promos and in these things that Triple H is allowing. I mean, going back to the Cena thing, you're right. We've all been in some type of abusive relationship, some type of relationship where we didn't feel comfortable and we kind of kept shut for years or for months or for however long until we finally cracked. And unfortunately, there's innocent bystanders. That poor little kid. I'm so mad that a week later they show that video of that little kid saying, I love you. And then he just destroys him. But it's like, wow, yeah, I know you love that.
I love it. Love every second of it.
But even something as simple like, the common American who's probably like, very, could be very traditional and still believe in prayer and things like that, and take an idea and a concept like that and apply it to like what Drew McIntyre did, right? When that whole beef started with CM Punk, when he was like, I was having a rough time and this and that, and I prayed that this happened to you. And it did. You know what I mean? Like, to turn something as simple
cold, man. That's
and
cold
traditional and and relatable to most like common folk in America, to use it for a device of like, to add to his heelish, character. You're just like, whoa, you know what I mean? So there's so many levels now. Like you said, it's no longer just you're a good guy, eat your vitamins, you're a bad guy, this and that. Ha ha ha, I got a lot of money. No, now there's levels, there's psychological things at play, there's long-term storytelling, and every little bit of detail counts. And that's what I think what makes wrestling so beautiful now because it truly is art in a way. I mean, just to simplify it though, my wife says like the reason why you love this so much is because it's basically a telenovela with some fighting.
Yeah,
It's our stories. It's our soap operas. That's my General Hospital.
Absolutely.
Like, leave me be. You want to watch your stories? I got mine. Like, that's
right.
The one thing I do want to touch on, Eddie, that you said in terms of that I also wanted to bring up about the Triple H era that I'm a big fan of, especially being Latino in the United States, is now he's giving his international superstars promos in their own language, which is something Vince was never really big on doing. He would have given them a manager. He would have given them a different way to communicate. Like he would have had Mr. Fuji or something else like that. So I think I want to give Triple H definitely props on that because it's like you never saw it before.
That actually does tie into something I wanted to just call out, like the international PLEs. I think like those are like just, you can't have anything negative to say about that. That's such a great inclusion.
Oh yeah, every single PLE that's been abroad has been fantastic, and each crowd tries to outdo themselves. But you know what? It's funny because I hate to say it this way because I've watched soccer games here in the States, but I've watched soccer games in Manchester and in Madrid.
It kind of makes the American crowds kind of lame.
Yeah, European crowds in sporting events are a little bit more classier and a lot more like vocal. Like they chant for everything and anything. And then that automatically translates in these arenas in Brussels, in Denmark, in Germany, in France, in London. Like, how do you expect them not to go so hard when these guys are doing the same thing every week for Arsenal and for Manchester United and for Liverpool and for Real Madrid? You know what I'm saying? So it's a beautiful thing to see. And you're right. That was one of the biggest things that I feel like, and thank you for bringing that up, that Triple H has done during his time is this European run. Those shows have been fantastic and they've been fun and entertaining and energetic. And it brings inclusion of the fans to a whole nother level because now us watching this from the States makes me be like, you know what, when they come here in May to Tampa and I go to Saturday night's main event, I'll be like, I'm gonna try to be as loud as I can because we got some competition. Now we got to compete with Brussels and Denmark and Sweden and all these other places. So what a good call out, man. I like that. That's good. Yeah.
So I think to Eddie's point, I also agree because even on these Netflix ones that are in Brussels and all these places, like these arenas they're going crazy, and I can also attest to it. It's not just Europeans, because I can say this. I went on a trip to Ecuador, God, maybe 15 years ago, and Eddie, I was with my father and your father. And we went to watch an Ecuadorian club team, whatever, play in the Recopa against, it was a Brazilian club team. And this was for the championship. And we went to the stadium in Quito, and it was made purely of just stone and like rock. Like you were sitting on just concrete. Like it was crazy. And I have never felt anything shake like that before. Ecuador won that game. We won that game. I want to say it was 1-0, something like that. When I tell you, that first of all, they had a whole big section for the Brazilian fans. And as people started coming in, that section started to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But the love that people have for their team and for, the WWE superstars and stuff like that, when it was raucous, like I felt the earth move. Like these international crowds are amazing. Like it's next level. And to Eddie's point, like you have to get up for this now. Like this is a call to us. Like we have to be better as fans.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, I still go back and rewatch some of those entrances, like the backlashes, specifically AJ Styles.
Yeah.
When like you were saying, like the arena was shaking, crowd was singing along, and like I might be the whitest white guy that ever white guyed, but Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico, the San Juan street fight, that was legendary. That was an all-timer. I was like, okay, I get it. I give him his props. Like, he showed up and that crowd was all behind it. So like that moment stood out to me way above just like some random, PLE in Indianapolis.
Right.
No
Yeah.
offense, but
The international crowd is
that was a
is next level.
moment.
No offense, Indianapolis.
Sorry, Indy.
No, sorry. No, but you're right. And I think that's the beauty of what's happening during the Triple H era. Just so many new things. I mean, even this, right? I don't know if you guys caught this, right? And just to get your thoughts on this, but it was even announced that now at the Hall of Fame, they're going to induct greatest matches. And I saw that and I was like,
a friend told me about this when I was at work last night. He said that there was going to be like Austin or like Hart, somebody was getting inducted as a moment.
Yeah. It's a moment, right? Like one of the greatest moments. And it was the Austin Bret Hart match, I believe, from WrestleMania 13. Like, Austin's in the sharpshooter and you see like all that.
That's the Crimson Mask. That's when Austin never said I quit or never gave up. Austin passed out.
Right. And I was like, no way. Like, now we're doing like wrestling moments. And I'm not opposed to it. I think it's great. It's just something that I guess, again, going back to like the abuse relationship mentality, it's like, but Vince wouldn't allow this. Like, is this okay? Is this even allowed? You know what I mean? Like, should we even do this? But it's exciting because now it's like, okay, so if you're inducting a moment like that, then the first one that comes to my mind is Rock and Stone Cold 2 with the Limp Bizkit intro alone. That was probably the greatest intro package of all time.
Hell in a Cell. What? Mankind going off the cage. If there's a moment, moment.
No, but I'm talking about. Yes, okay, that's fair.
Limp. First of all, the fact that Limp Bizkit.
I'm sensitive on hardcore wrestling right now.
I'm with Eddie, man. That's what WWE and really wrestling is about. It's the moments that stick with you for life. That's what makes us fall in love. That's why we watch.
So sweet. Oh, I love that, Mark.
Yeah.
I was about to say that's actually a good segue. That's actually kind of a good segue because we always, like to tend to ask our questions, and the one that we try to get done with all of our guests is a moment, a match, a particular feeling, something in time when you started watching wrestling and it was like, nope, I am a fan. This is something I can devote watching, this can be my novella. This can be my story. Like what was your, Eddie had, the that's gotta be Kane, I had a little more poignant thing with with my be babysat by my grandfather and just watching Lucha Libre with him on like that. I don't think it was Univision at the time. I don't even know what it was. But what Mark is the moment in time for you that solidified this as something that like you wanted to devote some time to watch?
Yeah, so I had these like blurry memories of it over the years, but my dad was a big wrestling fan. And so one summer we are at my grandmother's in Florida and he wants to record one of the pay-per-views. And me and my brother just decide, let's just watch it. Let's just see what's going on. And I don't remember most of it, but it's UCW Bash at the Beach 1998. Was scrambling to figure out which one, because I knew it was during the summertime. Like, I think that's got to be the one because my memory is Rey Mysterio winning the Cruiserweight belt against Jericho. And it's Bash at the Beach. So they have this big, like pit of sand and like a
a shark.
Like it's all this like set piece.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's like a lifeguard chair, right? Like a tall lifeguard chair. And so Rey Mysterio gets on the lifeguard chair, jumps off, gives a Hurricane Rana to Jericho onto a pile of sand. And that moment has just stuck with me forever. Like as a kid, you're like, this is the coolest thing in the world.
That's awesome.
And the WCW Cruiserweight division was amazing back then.
As underrated a division as you could get.
Yes. Imagine my surprise to know that both of those guys are still going at it today, right? Like 25 years later. But that was the match. But I do have to give another shout out to something that is just stuck in my head forever. Do you guys remember Conan with the Wolfpack,
Yeah.
he would come to the ring and he'd
Rowdy,
be like,
rowdy,
yo,
bowdy,
let me
bowdy.
speak on this. Yes.
Yo,
Orale.
let me speak on this. Orale. Yeah.
Yep. And my favorite thing, even to this day, is the guy that comes out and says the same promo every single time. Like when I started going to WWE, it was the New Age Outlaws and DX, and I just cannot get enough of that. Arriba la raza. Like that has been stuck in my head forever. I loved it so much. And so like the cruiserweight wrestling really got me hooked. The promos, man, that like just hook it to my veins. That kept me going.
Yeah, man. I love me a good promo, bro. Believe me. Like, ones that you could just keep watching over and over and just overanalyze. But I love that. So that means you were really like a WCW guy, huh? Like
It was
that's
WCW first. Yeah. Do you remember, Eddie? We used to play WCW NWO Revenge.
Yeah, on Nintendo 64.
On the
You
64.
had the Nintendo. I only had a PlayStation at the time, so I had to go over to your house to play that one.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite game as a kid. I loved that one so much.
I think one of us would use Goldberg too much because the spear was the easiest thing to do. So like
that was
it's
probably
one of those
you,
things that
Matt.
you would always do over and over again.
Because I was a Wolfpack guy. Like NWO Wolfpack was my thing.
Yeah.
Red and black.
Man.
Yeah, Kevin Nash, Sting. I love those guys.
They had
Man.
Luger there, right? For a while.
Like,
Yep.
And so that turned into DX. And then even like modern day, like Judgment Day, I just love a good faction.
Factions are great. Factions are so fantastic, which is something we
they're great if they're done right. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah, like they ran with the League of Nations one time where it was like Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, Rusev, and like Wade Barrett, and you're like, what? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, what's
That
happening?
is the United Nations of wrestling, basically.
But
Yeah, brother. But all right. Well, you know what, Mark? I want to take this opportunity to not only thank you for coming on to the podcast and really just sharing, our beginnings of our friendship, but now also reconnecting and especially through the love of wrestling. You know what I mean? And having you on the pod and talking about all this has been super fun and super exciting. What we notice is like any fan that comes on the pod, we always have like a little nickname or a title for them. Like Rich is lifelong fan of the podcast. Brianna's like the super fan of the podcast, but you will be deemed the best friend of the podcast.
Let's go.
there you go.
And then if anything else comes up that you want to touch on, by all means, brother, as the best friend of the podcast, we'll be more than happy to have you on and discuss.
Absolutely. But Mark, I do want to let you know the best friend of the podcast is your title. I voted for Stitch personally, just because of the fact that he but hey, I got
Hardcore champion.
So, but best friend of the podcast works for me. Mark, thank you very much.
I'll take it, man.
Man. We really appreciate you giving us whatever you could.
I'm honored. I am so glad. Like I said, I am a genuine fan of the show. I love it. Eddie, wrestling bonded us. It, brought us back in a lot of ways. Ariel, it was fantastic to meet you, brother. And
nice to meet you
both
too, man.
Them, like for life, brothers for life.
There you go. I love it, man.
No, man. Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I can't grab another topic, man. Grab another topic and give Eddie another show.
Let's do a recap show. I love those ones.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely like to do one of those.
You want to do like a PLA recap or a weekly recap? Absolutely, dude.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. That would be great. Wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we definitely will make some time and put that on the books for sure.
To defend my hardcore best friend title.
There you go, man. With vengeance, I love it, man. I love it. Well, Mark, again, thank you so much, and we'll be connecting really soon, brother. All right.
Stay in touch this time for sure.
I will do, man. I will. All right, man. Much love.
Peace.
Later, bro.
See you
Nice to
guys.
meet you, brother. Take it easy. Take it easy.
Woo, man, that was fun.
That
And
was nice,
nerve-wracking,
man.
really.
That
I didn't
was
know
nice.
where that was going.
Yeah. Well, we had to, we really didn't set much of an outline up. We just kind of just started rolling. But we got some good stuff. And he's a nice guy, dude. Absolute sweetheart. Real nice dude.
For sure. Yeah. It was super nice to reconnect in such a way. But then also, like he said, through the love of wrestling, we have been brought back, and that's what wrestling does. Wrestling brings people together. It's funny because in watching, and yeah, exactly, and watching, some of the stuff from this week, my wife was like, man, these people really love wrestling. Like, when she sees the arenas and how packed they are. And I'm like, babe, wrestling just brings people together. That's all it is. It's a thing that we all could talk about. It touched our hearts one way or another, and it connects us. And this is why we do what we do. Just to, for our listeners who actually enjoy hearing us for like 40 minutes
Thank you,
to an
guys.
hour,
We know you could spend those 40 minutes completely elsewhere. So once again, as always, we want to take a moment and thank everyone for listening, subscribing, following, Instagramming, primosforlife.com. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a moment, go to primosforlife.com, like, follow, click, download. We'll do an email. Like, please, everything that you guys can do to keep showing a little love our way, so we can give the love right back with these episodes and the recaps and things that we hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. And like, just to touch on really quickly what you said, everything's out there. primosforlife.com has our YouTube, our Instagram, an email on file. We have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you listen, and if you want to watch us, the videos are also on YouTube, as well as the actual podcast feed. So however you want to take the time to absorb all this wrestling information, and from two goofy Latinos,
that's right,
we are here to serve that market, people.
He's not wrong. It's, I mean, you tell me another two guys in their 30s and 40s who are sitting here just want to just yuck it up and just chat and chill with the fans, man. It's great. I love doing what we do. It's fantastic, man. And like I said, love to everyone for giving us the ability to feel this and feel the love from you guys and give it right back.
Exactamente. Bueno, primo, you know what to do, man.
Ya tú sabes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's a pleasure as always for giving us your time, and we love you. You guys take care. We will see you when we see you.
We will see you when we see you. Ciao.